Hey Sky fam, it's your Rose and welcome back to my channel. Before we get into it, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into Southwest hiring. So Southwest Airlines has announced that they're going to open hiring for external hires. That means anyone not currently working for Southwest Airlines on June 26th. Now, they did not say a specific time. Do not expect to see it as soon as the clock strikes 12 or even 6 a.m. However, you should keep a constant eye on the website. I would say start looking anywhere between 8 and 10 a.m. We do not know the exact time. It probably isn't going to be as early as 8 a.m. I probably think it's closer to 10, but check earlier. Don't check at 10 and it opened at 9:50 and be mad at me. Check between starting around 8, but I predict it'll probably come out around 10. Southwest notoriously has its applications open for such a short period of time. It did open back in February from like 30 minutes to an hour. It really was a super short window. There were a lot of people that didn't get their application in, didn't know if the application was real. This time around, the employees at the airline have been informed, and so that is why we're able to get this information out to you. Let's go over basic requirements that you need to be hired. So unlike some of the big three, you need to be 20, not 21 at time of application. So that means as of June 26, 2025, you need to be 20 years old. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. You must also have a valid passport. Now, it does not have to be a US passport, but you do have to have a passport that allows you entrance in and out of all of the countries that Southwest flies to. Now, they aren't a very major international airline. They mainly fly domestically. You can see the short list of international destinations that they fly to so that you can see if your passport will allow you to be able to fly to those places. You just need a high school diploma or a GED. You do not need a college degree in order to apply. It does make you more competitive, but honestly, there's so many flight attendants at every single airline that has been hired that has no college education whatsoever. There are no height or weight requirements. Now, when you go through the process, one of the last phases of the interview process that you would go through is called the PPST. And that is basically where you will walk down a simulation of an aisle, go through a simulation of an emergency exit door, and sit in a jump seat and make sure that it fits comfortably. Now, for the jump seat, you cannot use a seatbelt extender. And because of that, it has to kind of just be checked. There is no, like I said, height nor weight requirement, but they have to make sure that you are able to safely fit into all of the areas that you would need to evac or be in as far as your job requirements go. Southwest currently has 12 bases that you could be based out of. You will have your base assigned to you while in training. While in training, you will be able to make a list of preferences, and then your base will be picked off of that and seniority and need. Now, most people will probably go to one of their newest bases, which is Nashville, Tennessee, or to their very large bases like Denver, Colorado, or Chicago, or maybe even Baltimore. It used to be that everyone would start in Oakland. That's no longer the case. Now, a lot of people are going to newer bases or larger bases that they need the numbers for reserves. So those 12 bases are Atlanta, Orlando, Baltimore, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Denver, Phoenix, Oakland, LA, and Las Vegas. Now, depending on how aggressively they're hiring will depend on how quickly you get notifications after you apply. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be 6 weeks. You just don't know. I always say it is better to hear nothing than to hear a TBNT, a thanks but no thanks. That's just the one thing you don't want to get back. During their hiring process, you can expect a virtual interview. This will be like a higher view, similar to a lot of other airlines where you are just answering questions, and then you will for sure be doing face-to-face interviews. If you are not sure about how to answer questions or how to best perform in your face-to-face interview, you can book a call with me and I help you prepare for the application, for training, for the interview, and everything in between. Once you have finished your interview, you may get your CJO, your contingent job offer, on the spot, or you could be offered it by email after the fact. If you do not get it the day you interview, that does not necessarily mean you did not get it at all. Again, until you get that TBNT, thanks but no thanks, you are still in the running. You will have to do a background check and a drug test in order to be cleared to go to training. I have gotten questions on what type of drug test it is. I am not sure. Just don't do the drugs, kids. Don't do drugs. Training will take place in Dallas at their headquarters. It will be 4 weeks. It is unpaid. However, they do take care of your housing. They will fly you to and from training. They provide a meal card for you. So basically buy your meals off of that. It also works for like DoorDash, Uber Eats, and things like that. And then once you graduate training, you will be provided a stipend of $1,200. Now this is taxable, so it will depend. The actual amount you receive is more dependent on what state you live in than Southwest. Be mindful of that. They give you $1,200, but you may not receive $1,200. I've seen a lot of confusion about this. Something about the Southwest training process that is very different from any other airline is that you are required to know their PAs, their public announcements, word for word. Honestly, by the time you get to training. Now, you are provided all of the information that will help you prepare for training prior to getting there. One of the things you will definitely want to learn prior is the PAs. It's the biggest first hurdle. And I don't mean to say that to scare you, it's to prepare you. So like if you're really interested in this and you get the application in, go ahead and just breeze over it. Once you know you're in the interview process, start learning it. I mean, you might as well, especially if you get to your final interview. Depending again on how aggressively they're hiring will depend on how quickly they start training classes. They could have you in a training class in 3 to 4 weeks after you get the CJO at your final interview. It can really get the ball rolling, or it can be a slower process. It really all depends. But the biggest thing is within that first week of training, really within the first few days, you're going to be tested on those PAs. I have multiple videos that I will put up in the cards. If you are watching this on a TV and the cards don't come up, you can go to my channel and be able to search for these videos. But I have a video on how to learn PAs so that you can be as well prepared by the time you show up to training. The other thing that you'll want to learn are airport codes. I don't stress this as much. Really just learn the most basic popular ones, and you can kind of save the other ones for later. Testing that you do in training does require you to make a 90 or above on every single written exam. They do allow a certain amount of retakes, but once you run out of your specific number of retakes, you will be sent home. Same with proficiencies or drills. Those are things like opening and closing the doors, arming the doors, emergency evacs, and things like that. Those are things that you will be having practicals on that you have to pass as well. They are just pass or fail. You do get a second try on them during that process, and if you don't pass it during that process, again, you have a certain amount of retakes that you'll be able to utilize, but once you run out of those, you are out of them. Now, I also have gotten asked if you need to know how to swim. No, you do not need to know how to swim. However, you do need to be brave enough to jump into a pool with a life vest on and roll into a life raft. Understand what I'm saying. You do not have to know how to swim. However, you will be in a pool. So just be prepared for that. You'll have a life vest on though. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's not something to be scared of, but also be mindful of how you have your hair that day. Just saying. Anyways, now that we have the requirements, interview process, and training process out of the way, let's talk about some of the benefits of working at Southwest Airlines. So they have very competitive health and welfare insurance and benefits at Southwest. Some of those include free counseling appointments, free therapy appointments, allotted to each flight attendant. So there is a certain amount, I believe it's 8, that's allotted to every flight attendant a year. I believe it can be more than that a year if requested. That is something that you don't have to pay out of pocket for, and it can be with any therapist you'd like to use, even if it's one that you are already using, or if you need help finding one, they help you do that as well. And it can be telehealth or it can be in person, but that is something that they provide. They also have a free healthcare option, which is kind of nuts because a lot of companies do not. They do have that. Don't know how long they will have that, but they do have that. And then they have other tiers of insurance that may be more compatible to your health insurance needs or your family unit. They do provide profit sharing. Profit sharing is how the company kind of recognizes their employees for their hard work and contribution to the company and the profits that they have made. Retirement and investment. Honestly, Southwest has one of the most like aggressive in a good way and competitive matches as far as 401ks go. They match up to 9.3% dollar for dollar, which is much higher than a lot of companies. A lot of companies don't go above like 4%. So having a match at 9.3%, if you are really like planning your retirement, is super, super beneficial. And I think it is something that does make the company really competitive. Of course, like with other airlines, you will fly on Southwest for completely free domestically, significantly discounted, like only taxes on international travel. They also provide a 20% off discount code for a confirmed ticket for all of your employees. And I believe it works even like if the employee just books it, it's not just for the employee, it is for like their parents and family members as well. Even though Southwest doesn't fly to a lot of international destinations that you might want to travel to, like in Asia or Europe or Africa, even Canada or South America, they do have a ton of partnerships with global airlines. They are not a part of an alliance, which actually kind of works out in their favor. So the big three, Delta, American, United, are all a part of alliances. So that means that their partnerships are basically tied to who's within their alliance. Since Southwest is the fourth largest airline in the United States, it's able to work with so many airlines globally, so you can still do a lot of that leisure travel that you probably want to do that you can't do on Southwest itself. You still have the accessibility to it at a significantly discounted rate. Now let's get into the things that y'all really want to know. The pay. Okay, let's get into it. Starting pay for a new hire that is just entering is going to be $31.67. Now the difference between Southwest and like every other major airline basically is that they don't pay per flight hour, they pay per TFP, trips for pay, which equates to like 50 something minutes. There's this whole equation. If I can find it, I'll share it. It's not that important. Just realize that you're getting paid for a little less than an hour, so your hourly rate is actually a little more than that $31. It can be a little confusing. Don't let it confuse you too much. If you want to think of your hourly pay as the $31.67, that is okay. Just know that if it were to be a full hour, it would actually be a little bit more than that, which is great. You are going to be paid that full rate, that $31.67, when you're working the actual flight. So when the door is closed, the brake is off, and you are pushed back from the gate. That is when you are paid your full amount. Outside of that, when you're in a trip, you're going to get paid your per diem. Currently, per diem is set at $297. So that is essentially whenever you are not on the plane or whenever the door isn't closed, that is what you are going to get paid. Southwest is unioned. I should have mentioned that earlier. Southwest is unioned. They have a completely different union from any of the major airlines. Well, a completely different union from American and United because Delta isn't unioned, but they are unioned by TWU Local 556. That is the Southwest Airlines Flight Attendant Union. And the current contract that they have in place is going to be in place until 2027. They also have a lot of other money incentives. They have a flight attendant override, which is basically when the flight is full, you get an extra $5 for that. They also have a meal per diem. So if the flight is blocked at 4 hours or more, you will get a $20 meal per diem added to your check as well. There is no lead or purser position at Southwest. It's one of the things that a lot of people like about it because none of the flight attendants have any hierarchy over the other. Basically, everyone's on the same playing field. However, there are flight attendants A through D depending on what position you are working. So there is A, B, C, D. Some flights that's on the 800, A, B, C on the 700. And so if you are working in the A position, which could be considered the lead, then you are paid an additional $4 just for every leg that you work in that position. Flight attendants at Southwest Airlines do not time out. I want to say that again. Flight attendants at Southwest Airlines do not time out. By time out, I mean there is not a time frame in which you would get to if you are working and they say you are now illegal to fly. It is no longer safe. Now, pilots still have this at Southwest Airlines. I think every other airline, their flight attendants time out. However, at Southwest, they do not time out, okay? I think this is something to be notated personally. Because they do not time out, the incentive is money. I won't lie, Southwest does throw a lot of money at people, at their flight attendants in particular. So if your day goes over 12 hours and 35 minutes, you'll start getting paid time and a half. If it goes over another time bracket, you'll be paid double time. And then it continues and goes on. Now, these are obviously during abnormal situations, during irregular operations, but it does happen, it can happen. And so it is important to know that you may not ever time out, but how they alleviate that, I guess, is by compensation. There is VJA, voluntary junior assignment, I believe. So that is when they put in a trip. They might be really low on reserves, or they just need it worked really, really quick. Like maybe it's less than the 2-hour time frame that they can call a reserve for. Then that trip will be paid for time and a half if it's an open time. Once it's an open time with a VJA stamp on it and you pick it up, it'll automatically be paid time and a half, and you can see that on your payroll. It is offered every first, second, and third of the month and last day of the month. Every single month. If you pick it up out of open time, it's yours, it's on your schedule, it'll automatically be time and a half for every month. So that is like a big thing. People will like wait for open time to open on a specific day because it opens at a specific time on a specific day every month. And people will literally sit at their computers, at their phones, and wait to click to find out if they can pick up something on open time to pay VJA. Now, this is my little 2 cents. If you want them. As a new hire, it does not necessarily make sense to pick up a lot of things, especially if this is your first time flying. And it doesn't make that big of a difference if you pick up for VJA than if you pick up just for straight pay, because the difference in pay isn't very significant. Now, if you're a senior mama, you've been here for 13 years, you're topped out, you're making 80 something an hour, it makes more sense. When you're a new hire, it doesn't make as much sense. Also, at Southwest, the flight attendants are able to trade and give away their trips with incentive. And that incentive oftentimes works out better for you than a VJA trip. Just my 2 cents, just if you wanted that tip. Now, when you first get hired, your reserve life is most likely going to look like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, junior reserve. Now, because they got a new contract in 2024, I believe, they have an entirely new reserve system that went into place this year, 2025. So now they have AM junior reserve, AM senior reserve, PM junior reserve, PM senior reserve, and then late reserve. Okay, there's 5 different reserves now. So the AM senior reserve is liable from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's when they are contactable. Now, if you work senior, you will not be put on airport standby. Airport standby is when you're fully dressed, you go to the airport, sit in the lounge, and you will be there for a total of 5 hours, but it pays 6.5 hours. So junior AM reserve is contactable from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it is a 12-hour break that they are contactable for. Senior PM reserve is contactable from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you're senior, you have 8-hour contactable hours. When you're junior, you have 12-hour contactable period. So the junior PM reserve, I know this is a lot of information, I'm sorry, but you asked. Junior PM reserve is contactable from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and they can get airport standby. Senior cannot. Then there is junior late. Only junior late. There's not a senior and junior. There's only junior late. So junior late is contactable from 3 p.m. 3 a.m. That is again another 12-hour stretch. And that mainly came into play because Southwest Airlines started working red eyes. And so typically the people that are working the late shift, the junior late, are typically the people that are going to be scheduled for red eyes. A typical reserve schedule for a new hire will probably look like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Junior AM or PM typically look like 3 days on, 4 days off. So you would work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, be off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, off, and so on. 3 on, 4 off. As far as junior and senior bases go, if you're trying to figure it out so that when you are listing your bases in seniority, when you are in training, you can have the best chances possible, your most junior bases are probably going to be Denver, Nashville, and maybe like a Chicago. Now, Denver and Chicago are 2 of the larger bases at the company, and so it will probably have a few more junior people or just a larger range. Some other bases like Orlando, Atlanta, Phoenix, or Dallas, they're very senior heavy. So even though it may not have as big of a range, it might be very senior because of the amount of people that hold a certain class in that base. I hope that makes sense. For your first 6 months, you will be on reserve. That entire 6 months, you will be on reserve. You can pick up during that time period, but as I mentioned before, I don't think it's great to overwork yourself, especially if you're new and especially if you're commuting. Commuting is a whole different job in itself. I will also add a video about commuting so you can learn a little bit more on it before you get hired, because it is likely that you will not be based in the state that you live in. You are able to pick up outside of base, which is a nice thing. Not all airlines allow that. So if you were like really savvy, learn the bidding system, and you learn how to trade and give away and do all the things with your board, with your schedule, then you may be able to give away everything and then pick up out of the base that you want to or that's closest to you or things like that. I believe I covered almost everything. If you have any more questions, make sure you leave your questions in the comment section below. Let me know if you apply. I'm super excited for you. As I mentioned before, you are able to book one-on-one calls with me. I help you from the very jump, whether that's resume prep, interview, training, and everything in between. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Best of luck to everyone that is applying, and until next time, bye Sky Fam.